everyone, me Kevin here with a stimulus update and market update for June 24th. In this video, we'll be talking about new stimulus updates as well as what's going on in the hammered stock market and what the Fed has just said. And remember, the coupon code down below does expire today. If you have issues, email me, kevin@meetkevin.com. I can also give you information on bundling up. And sorry if I'm slow at replying. All right, first things first, we finally have some more details on this Explore America tax credit from a Republican. Republican Martha McSally put together and introduced the TRIP Act and released it today. This puts into writing a version of what Donald Trump has been talking about. Donald Trump has obviously been referring to this Explore America tax credit, which we've been hearing about. Like, seriously, $4,000 is a tax credit, so it's not even money I can use right now. We don't have money to travel. We don't want to travel. Yeah. Well, we finally have some more details on this, as much as we don't like it. What's interesting about it is that we finally know how far we actually have to travel to be able to use and write off these expenses. This specific proposal, which we're not sure if this is going to be the one that wins, but if it is, and this goes through, this proposal says that you have to travel at least 50 miles away from home for expenses to be considered, quote, qualifying travel expenses. A vacation home works, though. Must be nice to have a vacation home. And if you own a car, a personal car, you can use that as long as you're traveling more than 50 miles away. But you can't take this credit if you're traveling for business and writing off the expenses for business. In other words, you can't double dip. Now, obviously, I mean, that makes sense. You can't get two forms of a tax deduction for the same expense. Anyway, this credit would include food and beverages, live entertainment, lodging, like hotel stays, right? And any kind of transportation, which would obviously include trains, buses, subways, planes, whatever. Maybe even rocket ships. Although I don't think we're quite there yet. Although, I guess if we could, it might be interesting to try to leave the planet during a pandemic. Anyway, there's also another proposal out right now, but first I want to remind you to check out this awesome clapper I got. How cool is this? I have a real clapper now. I just have to write on it. But do also sign up for life insurance. You can do that in as little as 5 minutes, and you can get a totally free quote in the link down below. Super easy to do. By the way, I'm gonna buy a stock right now, so if you don't yet know how to buy a stock with the stock trading app Webull, here's how you do it. Right now, I'm feeling a little bullish on Apple, and I'm gonna get to the other updates in just a moment, but I'm quickly going to buy 5 shares of Apple here. We're going to do a limit order, and I wanna see that go through, so let's bump the price a little bit there. We'll make this a good to cancel order, so that way it goes through after hours with our Webull app. Remember, if you deposit $100 with this app, you could just sell the 2 stocks that you get totally for free, and then buy Apple if you wanted to. I'm gonna go ahead and execute this buy order here. There we go, and 5 orders are through, so we'll see when that order fills. But let's keep going with the stimulus updates. In other news, Senator James Lankford, a Republican, has proposed a Universal Giving Pandemic Response Act. Another bill which would give us the right, which I know right now when you hear giving and donating, right now we're thinking, wait a minute, Kevin, we need money right now. We don't need to be giving money right now, although there are a lot of people giving. Let me just be clear on how you might be able to benefit from this, especially if you're a tenant. See, if you're a tenant, you probably don't itemize your taxes. And if you're somebody who doesn't itemize your taxes, then you generally don't get to take advantage of donating stuff. So for example, let's say I paid $100 for this clapper and I wanted to donate it, and it's still worth, I don't know, $100, let's say. I go donate it to the Salvation Army. If I don't itemize my taxes, I usually don't get to take a write-off for this. Now, the CARES Act actually allows you to write off up to $300 in expenses. This new proposal would actually allow you to write off up to $4,000 in donations, which if you went through your garage and your closet and you found a bunch of stuff that you wanted to donate because you're not using it anymore, whether it's clothing or shoes or old baby toys that your children have outgrown of or whatever, and you donated this stuff and you wrote that off on your taxes, even if you don't itemize your taxes, I mean, you could put potentially another $1,000 to $2,000 of cash into your pocket. Obviously, always check with your own CPA because everybody's tax situation is different. But and you know, this kind of proposal gets complicated. Obviously, this should definitely not replace things like stimulus checks and unemployment pay and other things that we need. But this is good because it's just another way for us to potentially get extra cash if we do have stuff lying around like clapperboards that we want to donate. All right, and remember, this is just a proposal, okay? Again, if it happens, it's a nice bonus, but we don't only want to see this. Now, in other news, the IRS has accidentally sent hundreds of thousands of stimulus payments to inmates in jail, and now they're trying to get the money back, which this has lawyers freaking out because people are like, wait, you can't give people money and then try to claw it back. Like the CARES Act didn't say that inmates are excluded from getting stimulus checks. Well, so anyway, if you, by the way, are somebody who has not yet received your stimulus check, and probably if you're not behind bars, call the IRS. I will put the number down below. And I say that if you're not behind bars, because if you're behind bars, you probably don't want to call the IRS right now because they're trying to take money away from you, right? Okay, but if you have not yet gotten your stimulus check, call the IRS. They have hotlines open now. I'll put the number down below. And also, if you are a barber, which, by the way, I had no idea how many of you are actually barbers who watch this channel. I appreciate you. And I also appreciate the dozens of DMs that I got on Instagram about my messed up hair and the dozens of you who said you are barbers and offered to fix my hair. I appreciate you. For you, though, I will also put a number in for the SBA in the link down below or the description down below so that those of you who have questions about your grants can talk to the SBA about that. By the way, my heart warms up to the hundreds to now thousands of you who are sending me messages on Instagram and in the comments saying that you finally got your $1,000 to $10,000 EIDL stimulus checks from the SBA. Remember, you can still apply. You do not need an EIN number. There were some other YouTube videos saying you need an EIN number, you need like a business entity to apply for this. That is wrong. You can be an individual side hustle employee of yourself and you can apply for this extra $1,000 of stimulus checks. So if you have a side hustle or you're somehow a 1099 worker, apply. For example, if you drive Uber ever, or you drove Uber in 2019 and now your income's less from driving Uber, do not put Uber or Lyft as your company name. You put Kevin Paffrath, the Uber driver, as your name, and then put your social security in. Now, remember, you do not need to accept a loan. You do not need an EIN number. Even though you may be offered a loan and even though your credit will probably be checked, you do not have to take a loan. This is free grant money. And it is not income if you spend it on your business, right? Because if you get $1,000 and you actually spend it on your business, improving, your car, putting some hand sanitizer in the back as a gig worker or whatever you spend money on for your business, well, then it's a write-off. So you get $1,000 of income and $1,000 like a grant, and you have $1,000 of expenses. Those offset, right? Anyway, the White House has had additional discussions yesterday on the next rounds of stimulus. At this point, though, let's be real, everything is hinged on the outbreaks happening and the slow reopening we're going through, which unfortunately, things are getting a little bit worse. Over the last week, it's been relatively easy to say that we're testing more, and this has been true. We are testing a lot more, and there's a lot of testing happening in the Southeast, but there's no doubt we are seeing a dramatic spike in cases in the Southeast and California. And while this is bad news for us as humans, this information is going to probably support the idea of additional stimulus. Remember, even Joe Biden has been pitching and calling for a, quote, hell of a lot more stimulus. Now, this is especially important because, well, the stock market pulled back dramatically today, and Donald Trump's probably most famously favorite indicator is what the Dow Jones Industrial is doing. And the Dow is down 3% today, and travel and retail stocks are down about 10%, which might create a buying opportunity for those of you with really thick skin or hearts of steel, because those are hard stocks to be in right now. Speaking of Donald Trump, we know that he says the next stimulus package will be generous, but let's be real, generous right now is based on conversations in the White House that seem to exclude people who are essential workers, exclude people who are low-wage workers, with the exception of a payroll tax cut, which will take a while to fully realize, and would probably, at least this is how things are looking now, exclude additional funding for state and local governments, which the Fed is not very happy about, and will likely exclude undocumented workers from receiving benefits. Now, current discussions have focused on these items, and you might like some of these things, you might agree with some of these things, or you might be frustrated about some of these things. But the point is, right now, we have problems in our country, and we have a lot of states doing their own things to try to solve things. For example, New York, Jersey, and Connecticut just put together a pact for these 3 states, banning travel from 9 other states where coronavirus cases are surging. These people who travel to these states from those 9 states will be forced into a 14-day quarantine. The European Union is thinking about banning travel from the United States entirely. Democrats are upset over stimulus debit cards because they potentially give away and sell your information, and they're too complicated and have too many fees to use, and Republicans and Democrats can't agree on things like police reform either. There are a lot of crazy things happening right now, and all of this creates a lot of uncertainty and increases the likelihood of more stimulus because we need certainty for our economy to come back. In fact, President of the Chicago Fed stated today that, quote, "We are in uncharted territory right now," that, quote, "the recovery will take some time." And by some time, let's be real, he means years. Quote, "Until the virus is treatable or controlled through other measures, the return of economic activity hinges on the ability of businesses to provide safe workplaces and consumer environments. How much of these effects will allow activity to recover is an open question. But at least in some places, we are now getting paid to wear masks. Apparently, Caesars Resort and Casino is paying people to put masks on. This is actually a very interesting way of getting around the whole political debacle that is masks by basically saying, here's money if you wear a mask. The International Monetary Fund, by the way, has come out and said that global GDP is now expected to fall by 4.9%, which is actually 1.9 percentage points worse than the previous 3% drop they expected. And we know what happens when we see surges in cases. Cases go up. After that, hospitalizations go up after a delay. And after that, well, people passing away goes up. So what the heck are we to do right now? Well, my recommendation is, number 1, stay safe and get educated. Take advantage of the fact that you are going to be at home more, and you should ask yourself every day, what did I learn today? I personally, and I'm not saying this to pitch my own courses, which has a coupon code expiring today, I have personally been taking other people's courses on other topics that I'm interested in, like Sarge Ramelli has interesting programs on photography, and I'm not trying to pitch him. Why am I even talking about photography? I just like photography. And I found I just feel a lot happier when every day goes by. I think to myself, what did I learn today? Oh, I learned how to do that. I learned how to do that. I don't know. If anything, it helps with my happiness. Also, on scary days like today, where the stock market dropped substantially and every news outlet was complaining about this pullback in stocks, I do encourage you to ask yourself, can you spare $50 to invest in your own future and put them into stocks? I'm not even talking about the $100 you can put into Webull. I'm literally talking about anytime there's a scary day in the market, can you put $50 in? Can you put $25 in? Can you put $100 in? And just buy a little bit. My encouragement to you is to buy things that you're going to be comfortable with while you sleep. So if you pick stocks like Tesla, Amazon, Apple, Etsy, Shopify, or Redfin, these are companies that should do well. If you want to see more of these companies that I like, you could go to metkevin.com/stocks June 22. Stocks, June, and then the number 22 for 22nd. I updated my M1 Finance Pie. You could check that out. Just be careful with any of the retail and travel stocks. I'm not saying you're not going to make money eventually if you invest in them, but they will keep you up at night. The third thing I recommend you do is save money. Even though that hurts the economy and people are like, Kevin, you're gonna break the internet if you tell people to save money. You got to take care of yourself right now. You got to make sure that your financial house is in order. Whether that means you're taking mortgage forbearance, whether that means you're applying for unemployment, you're getting your EIDL grant, the EIDL grant, whatever it is, you got to do whatever you got to do right now to build as much cash as you possibly can. Now, some reports have indicated that the stock market has been very volatile today because people are worried about this possible resurgence we're seeing in cases. Some are saying, no, this is just June rebalancing between bonds and stocks, and others say there's profit taking. Some say it's all 3 of these things. Others say we're in a bubble. And whatever the actual reality is, maybe it's even a combination of all that stuff, my belief remains the same. Buy what you believe in, sleep comfortably, get educated, and just continue to buy. Forget about the sell button. Forget about the value of your account. Talk about the value of your account in 30 years. You don't have to compare to all the people in the comments section going, oh, I'm up 30% on this, I'm up there. Cool. 30% on $5 is still not that much money. So build a portfolio and don't talk about bragging about returns. Build wealth and look back in 30 years from now. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. Please consider subscribing if you have not yet subscribed. Share this video if you found it helpful with somebody else who might find it helpful. And folks, I really appreciate you, and we will see you again soon.